Okay, thank you.
What do you do with the old ones? What do you do with the old ones? They might have some value.
You know a
Just-
guy who,
I'm just listen. I won't make any money, but if you're just going to trash them, I'm sure they're worth 100, 150 bucks. Depends on the generation.
this is not gonna work. I thought maybe.
So nice. Everyone's coming out to wish Mark.
All right, Mark's audience.
Yep. Mark, this is all your audience out here? That's so nice of them.
Should read this ahead of time.
So yeah, I might be able to kind of hovering behind you now and then to kind of just see what's going on.
I just want an abbreviated version, you know?
Yeah, pick out 3 of them. You know,
Right.
that are, the best ones. But you should read a couple. You've been here for, geez, since '84. That's a long time.
I can read through all these. That's all right. They're not too bad.
Yeah.
Is he here?
What's that?
Is he here yet?
I
I don't see him.
don't see him.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mendoza, are we ready to begin?
I have the whole.
You have the whole packet?
This thing?
No, you don't have it.
Yeah, he's all ready. The man behind the curtain.
I want it. There he is. All right.
Nice picture. It's so not here.
There he is. We can see you, Jeffrey.
Oh. Clearwater, Florida. View from my room. Are we ready to begin?
Hey, you guys like the water.
Marcus.
That's one thing.
I don't want that roll tonight.
Huh?
I don't
Anybody
that
want to give
roll.
me a thumbs up that we're ready to begin?
Right?
What? There's not one down there?
Didn't we have the light? Didn't we have this?
Let's pull mine up. Let's see here.
Yes, go change that. We are ready.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regularly scheduled Rossmoor Community Services District Board meeting for Tuesday, November 8th. Mr. Mendoza, will you do a roll call, please?
Here.
What mic is that?
Here.
I think you might have said my name, but I can barely hear you, but I'm going to say here.
I don't know.
Director DeMarco, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. Can everyone please stand?
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to start off tonight with a couple of presentations. First presentation will be to Fernando Molina. Is Fernando there? Yes. Was that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Fernando, I'm sorry you're not there personally to be able to give you the recognition. Director Serlos is going to come up but I do want to say thank you very much for your decades of service to Rossmoor. Not only did you help everybody in terms of improvement with tennis, which I think is really important, but you've done much more than that with life skills and conditioning and teamwork, and just the impact that you've made on people and the community is really remarkable. And just thank you so much. We're so sorry to see you leave, but thank you for all you've done for so many residents and not just of Rossmoor, but from the local communities. Nathan, if you want to take it away.
This is a commendation from the Rossmoor Community Services District Board to Fernando Molina. Whereas Fernando Molina has served the Rossmoor Community Services District as a contract tennis instructor for 38 years, and whereas Fernando Molina has made significant contributions to the Rossmoor tennis program as he has taught thousands of adults and young during his tenure as a contract instructor, and whereas he taught tennis, mentored and encouraged many of his students to excel at both the high school and college levels, and whereas his knowledge, expertise, and ability to lead drove the improvement of tennis skills of his students so that they were able to more fully enjoy the game of tennis, and whereas Fernando Molina's desire to promote tennis inspired him to enhance lives by beginning a program for special needs students, and whereas Fernando Molina is well respected and loved by the community within the Rossmoor Community Services District, and he will be missed on the Rossmoor Tennis Board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District extends our sincere gratitude to Fernando Molina for his service and wish him the best in his retirement. Presented this 8th day of November, 2022. Thank you. Thank you. All right, would any of the attendees want to come and join us for a picture with Fernando? Is that all right?
We have a little collage of pictures of Fernando up on the screen. We tried to find someone when he was really young, but he looks the same, so we just use these.
Oh, okay. Hey, wow, you got it all zoomed up. I like it.
Oh boy. looks like 30 years are going like really fast when you are having fun. I'd like to say thank you to the Rossmoor Community Service District for letting me have the opportunity to be here around for all these years. I did have the chance to teach a lot of guys, not only children, but also adults. Among all those students, I did have some good players representing Los Alamitos High School. Like one of those, for instance, is Mark, the son of Ralph, who plays, besides Los Alamitos, he plays college. Also, he plays in Europe. Also, I had the opportunity to work with another guy. They went to Duke University with a full scholarship. Later, he did so good that he got a wild card for the U.S. Open, one of the best Grand Slam tournament in the tennis professional. So I had a lot of students through the years going to our Los Alamitos High School for the team. Among those students, besides children, I had a lot of adults also. But I had 7 special need children, which enjoy so much playing tennis. It's really great to see, last weekend, 3 of those guys won the gold medal in San Diego for the Special Olympics. I have one especially that when he came to me, the guy hardly he could move his feet, and every time he swing his racket to hit the ball, he just hit the air. And now he ended up winning the gold medal. I had also, among of those 3, the son of the Dr. Victor Pedrosa, Alejandro Pedrosa. He is one of the top players in California. And he just won the gold medal also in San Diego, beating in the final a very good player that is going to represent USA in the Special Olympics in Europe. So nobody believes that he can beat that player, and he did it. So it's really enjoyable to see all those guys doing whatever they're doing. And then please, I ask you, the board members of the Rossmoor Community Service District, I recommend to Mr. Mendoza a guy that I know him very well. He's a very good player. He has experience working with the special needs kids. And the most important, he's a great human being to take my place. Then please don't leave these guys, not only I had around 15 children doing very good, plus the adults. So please don't leave those guys just in there. I worked so hard for 30 years in this program, and then I built it up. And those guys enjoy it so much, from 4 years to 80. They really enjoy to play tennis. Please don't let this program die. I know it's something going on. You guys decided, I don't know if you guys decided or not to put a pick and ball court there, but please don't let this program die. I did work really hard for that. And then I hope these guys continue to play because they enjoy so much the game of tennis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fernando, for all you've done for our community. Before we move on, I actually would like to, I would like to make a motion, actually, that we give Mr. Mendoza the authority to place a plaque in the tennis area, thanking Fernando and recognizing Fernando for his many years of service to our tennis community and to Rossmoor as a whole. So I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Point of order, Mr. President, it's not on the agenda. I would love to.
Okay, I can't, is anybody speaking?
Sorry. I mean, I think Joe has the authority to do that on his own. I don't think we've ever said anything to the contrary unless somebody knows something different. But I don't think we have the authority to vote on that tonight because it's not on the agenda. So while I support the plaque, I can't support a motion because of
President
the
Ripps,
Brown Act.
President Ripps, I just suggest that we direct our general manager to create something meaningful. He certainly has the budgetary authority to do something like that. I don't know that we need to vote on it, and since it's not on the agenda, it's not appropriate to be voting on something that isn't on the agenda, but I certainly support your concept, and I would suggest we just simply direct Mr. Mendoza to be creative and create something meaningful.
Thank you both for the guidance, and I retract the motion, and hopefully the seconder will track, and we'll just direct Mr. Mendoza to please do something meaningful and impactful for Fernando and all his years of service in the tennis court area.
Joe, that mic's not working.
How about now?
Yes.
All right, thank you, President Ripps. I have the spirit of the board. I'll take care of it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on. So we now, unfortunately, have a proclamation of appreciation, not unfortunately for the appreciation, but that we have a proclamation for outgoing First Vice President Mark Nittickman. Mark, I shared this with you personally, but I do want to just say, publicly, just thank you so much for not only your years of service to Rossmoor, but to RCSD, but to the entire community of Rossmoor. I know you served many years with RHA, and you are one of the smartest people I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and your dedication and commitment to our community as a whole is just exemplary and outstanding, and I've learned a lot and appreciate being able to work alongside you the last couple of years. So thank you for all you do. I would like to ask Director Barkey to go ahead and make the presentation to you, and again, thank you so much for all you've done.
Martha, would you join us too, please?
Martha's not here tonight.
Oh, got it.
That's all right. We'll make the presentation to Martha through Mark.
All right, we've got a long proclamation, but before we do that, just some personal comments. Mark has served on the board the entire time that I've been on the board, and your calm demeanor, your thoughtful deliberations, and your perspective are always greatly appreciated, and no question you will be missed. So thank you for your service. Whereas Mark Nittickman has served on the board of directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District for 6 years, beginning in November 1st, 2016, and whereas Director Nittickman supported the early payoff of the Rush Park bond in August 2020, helped steward the district through the COVID pandemic, was involved in coordinating many improvements in district parks and facilities, and promoted and supported technological advances for the benefit and convenience of residents. And whereas during his tenure on the board, Director Nittickman was instrumental in bringing the farmers market to the community, supported the annual Arbor Day celebrations, and participated in annual community festivals, winter festivals, and a variety of other successful community events. And whereas Director Nittickman supported the district in resolving quality of life issues with regard to changing the district's street sweeping schedule for enhanced services, and whereas Director Nittickman has been a strong advocate for community safety and has worked tirelessly on behalf of the district's residents to support the district's campaign to make Rossmoor Street safer by distributing slow-down signs, safety banners, installing permanent flashing speed limit reminder signs, and larger stop signs for greater visibility. But wait, there's more. And whereas Director Nittickman devoted many hours to serving on various RCSD committees, including and most recently the Audit Committee, Budget Committee, Personnel and Contract Administration Committee, Community Relations Advisory Committee, and the Community Satisfaction Survey Ad Hoc Committee, and whereas Director Nittickman provided outstanding leadership as First Vice President from 2021 to present, leading meetings when needed and attending events. Finally, now, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District extends our sincere gratitude to Mark for his services and wish him the best in the future. Thank you, Mark. Full hard.
See, this way I only face, or I'm going to just go back to my seat. Break a few rules.
Okay.
That way I get to face everybody. Thank you all. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, other members of the board. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mr. President, for this honor. Appreciate it. I really can't take credit for most of those things in the proclamation. The entire board did them, and I was one voice, and sometimes I was the leader in those things, and sometimes I wasn't. But it's a board effort. I do take some credit for pushing the farmers market, and I'm hoping it succeeds. I think the jury's still out, and everybody needs to go out and support it because I think it's a good thing for the community. I can take some credit for Kempton Park and our native plant showcase there, which certainly I actually started on that when I was on the board of the RHA, and it was a cooperative effort of the RHA and the RCSD, and I take great pride in that as well. And I'm hoping there's a number of initiatives that we've worked on that are incomplete, and I'm hoping those will continue to happen. Things like maybe getting a community garden someday in one of the parks, perhaps acquiring one of the park spaces on Montecito if the water district is selling it. And in any event, I have mostly enjoyed my time here, and it's been challenging sometimes. We've had a lot of things to deal with, and I appreciate the kind words and the applause, and I look forward to seeing you all around the neighborhood. Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mark. Again, I'm sorry I'm not there to give you thanks in person, but I'm sure I will see you walking around the neighborhood, and I am pretty sure you're going to still be involved in Rossmoor. I can't see you stepping all the way out, so I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. We have no additions to the agenda, so we're going to move to public forum. The forum is reserved for items that are not listed on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Rossmoor Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action may be referred to staff at the discretion of the board for a report and action at a subsequent board meeting. Clearly, I see that there are a lot of people here. So to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to talk, we're going to ask people to limit their time to 3 minutes. And as I can't really see the audience, I'm going to ask Director Niddickman to actually to facilitate this part of the program. Just a reminder that if you're here to speak about anything that's on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to speak about those when we get to that point in the agenda. So with that, I will turn it over to Mark to start the public forum.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Oh, and also, Mark, if you could just make sure people use the microphone, because I cannot hear at all without them at the microphone.
Okay. I will do that. First up, and everybody appreciate everybody's comments. Do please try, remember to stay respectful and to focus on the issues and not on the people. I appreciate that. First up is overview of collaborative program, Youth Center and RCSD, Mariam Girao, and I apologize.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. And then there was a couple slides I think he's going to pull up. I'll be really quick. I know we came back in June, but we like to come and first and foremost, thank you guys for your partnership. There we are. My name's Mariam Girao. I'm the Director of Development. We have a new program supervisor that you'll see popping around. Her name's Janae Roberts, and I wanted to put her face up there so you could see her. Next. This is our Rossmoor resident information. As you can see, most of the clientele and the kids that we serve are residents of Rossmoor. So we're really hitting home with who we serve here through not only our Kids Night Out, but our Music Academy, our sponsorships, and our scholarships that we give children. And as you can see on the left-hand side, that was our most recent Kids Night Out that was hosted here. So big thank you to Joe Mendoza for hosting our Halloween party here. The kids were raving about it nonstop. They had a great time. Next. Our monthly collaborations, again, thanks to Joe and Chris and the RCSD board. We've been lucky to work on some of the wonderful programs like our Camp Shark at Rossmoor Park, our Leadership Academy that took place here, our Rascals, and then the Halloween Kids Night Out, just to name a few. Also, in the last couple months, we did the Arbor Day celebration. The kids made little bird feeders. We did the bike safety event. We're constantly working on the Little Libraries project with you guys, A Night Among the Stars, and been helping with some spring cleaning around here. So next month, we're actually going to be working with RCSD to help Rossmoor families in need through our Adoptive Family Program. Next. We have really exciting updates for those of you that haven't heard. The Youth Center was named as a top-rated nonprofit of 2022, and the La Salle School District awarded us a Hero of the Heart Award. So those were two really big accomplishments in the last quarter. We also acquired a new property in December of last year. Our plans were approved, and we're starting construction this month. So the kids are going to have a brand new youth center, which is tying in with our 70th birthday this year. So we're very excited about that. Look for us. We'll be on La Salle Boulevard, very close to Southland Credit Union. Next. And this is our last thing that we wanted to announce tonight. We have a huge Rossmoor resident shout out to Ali Hatakayama. She is a sophomore at Los Alamitos High School, and she has started the first ever Youth Center Leadership Council. And what they are doing is, you can see the mission statement on the right-hand side. They're dedicated towards providing leadership development to students in the community, not just at the high school level, but the two bottom rows are also middle schoolers from McAuliffe and Oak Middle School, and they're trying to provide opportunities for children to grow with integrity, resilience, compassion, and be the future leaders of tomorrow. So our very own Rossmoor resident, Ali Hatakayama, started that, and we're very proud of her and just wanted to share that with you guys. Next. Again, we just like to come give you guys these fun updates. You can see our kids around the parks here at RCSD for Kids Night Out, and we're just very, very grateful, and we like to let you guys know what's going on here in our very own community with our kiddos. So again, thank you so, so much for being an outstanding community partner.
All the remaining speakers are on pickleball. First up is Sue Kaplan. Huh? Do you want to hold off till D2? Oh, okay. We can do that.
Yeah,
I think
pickleball.
that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea unless Jeffrey has.
Testing one.
I agree, that's when
Okay.
we should.
So other than pickleball, is anybody whose card I don't have wish to speak? Seeing none, the public forum is.
Sorry.
Oh.
Part of mine is pickleball, and part of mine is something else.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So do you want me just to do it during pickleball? It's nothing, it's just a statement, or do you want me to do half now and half?
Oh, pickleball, sheriff, miscellaneous. Why don't you go ahead now and leave out the pickleball stuff and we'll address that. Okay? Decisions on the fly.
My name's Maureen Waters, and first of all, Director Ninikman, I too would like to thank you for your service and look forward to just waving to you when I'm walking my dog Toby. And then in regards to the sheriff's substation at Rush Park, I believe it was the last meeting I was on attending by Zoom, and there was one in the past at Rush, and that I really hope the sheriff takes advantage of our offer to open up another substation at Rossmoor, in Rossmoor, whether it be at Rush or at Rossmoor Park. But this, in my mind, keeps them in the neighborhood longer instead of them going back to their office and writing the reports and then maybe making their way back to Rossmoor. So I think that's something that we should continue to press the sheriff on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Unless there's anybody else, now the public forum is closed. Back to you.
Thank you, Director Nitikman. Okay, we're going to go on to reports to the board. Mr. Mendoza, the quarterly recreation report, please.
Yes, thank you. President Rips, I would like to introduce Chris Arquetta, our recreation superintendent. He's going to give you an overview of some of the programs in the past and some of the programs coming up. And I just want to give Chris a shout out that he works tirelessly on collaborating with people with groups like the Youth Center and other groups in our area to provide programs that we probably could not support with ourselves, like LAGSL and things like that. So I just want to thank Chris, and he'll give you an update on what's happening and what's coming up. Chris?
Hello, I'll be brief. I just want to mention some highlights, like you mentioned, from the previous events and some upcoming events. We ended up the summer with the family festivals. It was a great event. We had the Emperors playing to a packed house. That was probably the most people I've seen at the event or at the park in general. We're definitely going to bring some more family festivals back. After that, we had the following month, we had a health and wellness festival. It was well attended and a lot of great response from that as well. And we plan on bringing it back next year and adding some more stuff to it as well. We also hosted the Heroes Luncheon. I think it was like the second or third luncheon that we hosted here. And they honored some military, some law enforcement, some first responders, and somebody from the fire authority as well. And it was just great to see them honored. Some upcoming events. Actually, we just had the bulky item cleanup. It was this past Saturday. We collaborated with CR&R, and we filled up about seven or eight large blue bins. A little slower than last time. Last time we filled up about 14 large bins, and residents came by with their vehicles, and we just unloaded their stuff. It was mostly large items that you can't usually throw away on regular trash days. So we plan on doing that again. Maybe once a year. I don't know if we need to do it twice a year, but we'll definitely bring that back as well. We have a blood drive coming up Wednesday, November 16th, here in the auditorium at Rush Park. Come by. It's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go on the website. It's www.redcrossblood.org. We also have a compost giveaway coming up. That is November 19th, also here at Rush Park in the parking lot. We are giving away bags of compost to residents. I believe it's 2 bags per resident. It's going to be, like I said, right here in the parking lot from 9 to 12 on November 19th. And then last, I just want to mention the Rossmoor Winter Festival. It's a great event. We have it coming back on December 10th. We're going to have local school choirs come in. We're going to have snow. We're going to have a kids zone with inflatables. We're going to have a petting zoo. We're going to have the pony rides back again. We'll have Santa here as well. And it's going to be a great event. If anybody's interested, we got some great sponsors again that are helping us out. And like always, it's a great event. And I'd like to see everybody come on out. December 10th, starting at 4, come on by. That's all I got. I'll take any questions if you have any.
I have a question.
Sure.
On page, I guess it's 13, you have the numbers for the various activities, tennis, basketball, volleyball. There's a note that says it's based on staff observation and/or reservation system. Obviously, volleyball and basketball, there are no reservations. So that's, and tennis is a mix. Please explain how you got these numbers.
Yeah, we have staff go and track at least once a week out of the month. We are very short-handed, so it's hard to do it every day. So we get at least a week out of the month, and we take an average from that. And so we get a daily average from that, and we multiply it by the month, the days in the month. So for example, for tennis, it's about 45, say if there's 45 people there a day, we multiply it by 31 for October, and it'll be a range anywhere from, we have, typically there's like 40 to 50 people there a day, so the range will equal out to about 1,240, or 1,240 up to 1,550.
Okay. So it's, yeah, roughly around 1,300, give or take. And so how many observations do you make to come up with that number?
We try to get as many as we can, but it's, like I said, it's very hard to get a daily number for each day. So maybe we get like we try to get at least a week out of the month, but if we have more, we add that into getting an average for the day.
So you come on a Monday one day, in the afternoon, next day, Tuesday in the morning, or whatever?
Yeah, we try to do it at different times so we cover the whole day at some point.
Okay, and that's 4 courts,
Yeah.
1,300 people a month. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
How far back do our numbers go? How long have you been tracking this?
Couple years.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you, Chris.
So we got a sort of an average that we figure out.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been tracking it for a couple years now.
Okay.
I think the numbers we saw at one of our subcommittees was that the numbers are going up for
Can I watch
tennis.
this?
Is that correct?
Want to see what I'm looking at?
Tennis has been pretty
You
steady,
wanna
but
look
yeah,
at
it
what
keeps
I'm looking
going
at?
up.
Thank you.
I see that.
Did you say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
here?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you very much. I take it there's no more questions?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on to the update regarding potential pickleball program. I know that there's nobody in here that the auditorium that's interested in pickleball, so I beg your patience as we move on to the other things. But Mr. Mendoza, can you lead us off with your report on potential pickleball program here in Rossmoor? I cannot hear you, so please.
Anyway, if it goes off again, let me know. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Members of the board and President Rips, tonight's not an action item. It's more of an information item and a time for our public to give input. It is recommended that the Rossmoor Community Services District Board of Directors review and discuss the information I'm about to provide and direct myself accordingly, the General Manager. As you know, this past month, I've continued to work on pickleball.
Joe, you just went out. Yeah.
Use one of the other ones.
Okay, here we go. As you know, we've been evaluating this process. We've been looking at other agencies. To date, I've been and toured and called and talked to representatives from the city of Tustin, Newport Beach, Carlsbad, Long Beach, Cerritos, Cypress, Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, just to name a few. Not only have I talked to their staff and discussed the process they went through to add pickleball to their community, but I've also talked to some of the consultants that they used and visited the sites. It's a gamut of a variety of approaches that each city and agency took, and it's based on a need and based on their site and based on a number of other issues, and everyone's unique. Recently, we had a November 2nd meeting of the Parks and Facilities Committee. Director Shields and Rips oversaw that meeting and was held on November 2nd. A copy of the committee's agenda is attached for reference. Also attached is a letter from USTA Southern California Director of Community Tennis, Esther Hendershot, who gave a presentation. Ms. Hendershot requested an opportunity to make a presentation. The board granted that. Ms. Hendershot was referred to the Parks and Recreation Commission to make that presentation, and she outlined the concerns related to adding pickleball adjacent to tennis courts and taking away a tennis court from the community. Let me look at my notes here. As a result of that, Ms. Carol Churchill sent in a report that I have over there as a sample, and somebody, if you wanted to take a look at it, or call me and we can send it to you. But it's a report from Director's Report Board meeting from Palm Springs and a couple of other.
Please talk directly into the microphone.
Sure. The Director's Report from the cities of Palm Springs and a couple other agencies outlining their process and what results and what they did for their communities. Moving on, also the agenda was a report from the general manager, myself, regarding the sound mitigation study's scope of work, while public comment at the committee meeting voiced concern over the study process and the consultant selection. Those comments will be taken into consideration as we move forward. I want to make it very clear that this is a process. There's not one right or wrong way to approach it. I think the board has given me clear direction to be, I guess, careful in how we approach it and not to act fast, and I appreciate that. We just didn't jump in. Some cities like Long Beach went head first and just made some pickleball courts, and now they're in a world of hurt because people are complaining about them, or some of them, like I think somebody brought up Stevely Park, or the park over here, was too close to homes. It was like 10 yards away from homes, and they had no mitigation. They had no study. They just didn't take the process seriously. And so then they had some conflicts and they had to close the court. So I think we're being very diligent in the way we're approaching this. I want to say that I've had the opportunity to interview 3 or 4 number of consultants. One of them, as you know, I chose, and that's Bob Unichitz of the PSM LLC, Pickleball Sound Mitigation. I know there was some concern over that, but I want to tell you the process in which I was able to choose Bob. I looked on the website and also called some references, and he was highly recommended. And the reason Bob's coming out here this Monday to do a on-site schedule is because I negotiated a contract with him to come out on behalf of Rossmoor, but he was already coming out to study some other agencies. So they were fitting the bill for that, and he was in town doing a pickleball tournament in the desert, and so I convinced him that, hey, if we would pitch in a little bit, would you come out and hit our facility too? So it was a cost-effective way of getting an on-site study, because most of the consultants now aren't doing on-site studies. They're doing simulation studies because they've done so many studies, they have it in their system, and they're able to, I guess, get readings, accurate readings on pickleball sound and distance and things like that. Ms. Churchill was very good about giving us a resource, and that was let me take my time here, the Lackawanna Flint Ridge report and their consultant. I was able to talk to both their consultant and their staff, and the reason they paid, I think it was $15,000 for an on-site study, was because Lackawanna Flint Ridge had a different, I guess, site and different things they had to contend with. And one was,
Joe, can you bring the mic closer?
Yeah, one was, I believe, was water, and one was also elevations. And so they decided to have the pickleball consultant come, or the sound consultant come on site. And they took it was a very, very long, arduous study. They did 7 days before with no pickleball, 7 days with pickleball, and it took the consultant a long time and a lot of money. After talking to the consultant, I'm going to read you what he sent me on an email. And it's from Lance Willis of Spadarian and Willis Acoustics Noise and Control, very reputable firm. We have data for pickleball courts from a number of sites. The only reason we would need to do an on-site test would be to characterize an unusual ground type like a wash or water feature. We don't need your pickleball paddle data. Your area looks to be fairly flat and mostly grass and asphalt surround ground surfaces. This is a fairly straightforward model to accurately get results from. Pickleball paddle impacts tend to be fairly consistent from location to location. I recently used our reference pickleball data in a model of a complicated site with several reflecting surfaces near the courts. The results were within 1 dBA of the data measure on the site. That's about the level of accuracy you can expect from acoustical measurements performed with type 1 sound level meter. And then another email, he said, the analysis and noise abatement planning for 2 parks, and that's here and also Rossmoor, a study of 2 parks, would be approximately $4,000. And that's a simulated test, that's not on site. I can send a more specific proposal after we discuss the scope of work. It would probably be first week of December before I can have a report ready. I didn't do a formal analysis for Glendale at Lackawanna Flint Ridge. I was working with neighbors to get the city to understand that the site didn't have sufficient setback and could not be mitigated with a wall system due to the difference in elevation. The homes were, I believe the way he explained it, were higher than the park, so the sound took off and it was impacting the homes. There was also a ABC Channel 7 story about this issue. We have done noise abatement planning for a couple of pickleball sites in California, mainly outdoor resorts in Palm Springs and Cathedral City, and I talked to them, and Hidden Palms and Palm Desert. So that's Spadarian and Willis Acoustics. I'm in contact with them, and I appreciate the resource. And so that's another simulated study, because I don't think we would want to pay, $15,000 for them to come out if it's not necessary. The other one is a gentleman named Gary Hardesky. Gary Hardesky works, and he owns SMF, it's a global event technology noise mitigation and management. It's SMF stands for Sound Media Fusion. They're out of Van Nuys. This is Gary, the gentleman I think I mentioned at the Parks and Facilities meeting that he was having trouble getting back to me because he was just hired by the Olympic Committee to do their pickleball. I guess it's going to be an Olympic sport. I guess he's doing the sound mitigation part of it, I think. I don't know. I don't know what his role is there, but he's on their committee. Anyway, Gary, I found early on and was in negotiation with him because he did the noise study for Newport Beach, and I went and visited that site, and it turned out real well. But it's a unique site. Like I said, every site is different. We can go to. I can take you to almost every site, and it would be totally different than what Rossmoor is. And seriously, it's a different type of situation everywhere you go. So, knowing all that, Gary's not Gary, but I believe Bob's gonna be out here Monday. The time is to be determined. He's driving in from the desert, so I would imagine it'll be mid-morning. He's talking to me about 10 o'clock, but he can't guarantee that time. And he's gonna bring out his material, and he's gonna and his sound meter and whatever else he has, and he's gonna do a study from different sites in the park. And then I'm in negotiation with both the SMF and the did Newport Beach, and also with the study that was done in Lackawanna Flint Ridge. So, moving on, that's where we're at right now with the mitigation studies. I just want to really, I guess, emphasize that as I went through this and talked to each city, and we are not unique. Every city had a push and pull and a struggle, and I want to please ask everybody to stay at the table, stay calm, let's work through this. We don't know the outcome. I've read reports that, like I said earlier, that the sound study came back saying, no, you shouldn't put it there. We can't guarantee, the reduction in decibels, and it's too close to homes. But the range is anywhere from 300 feet on or closer that they really have a problem with. They said 300 feet is kind of the turning point, the tipping point where they can cut the decibels in half. Now, we don't know if the decibels is going to be, I don't know what the decibels is going to be, so we got to make sure that we take those readings and that we get a detailed report in order to make a decision. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So in summary, the addition of the pickleball to Rossmoor is a very complex decision that requires a process to thoroughly evaluate the many factors involved. It is anticipated that the Parks and Recreation Committee may be ready for a recommendation regarding pickleball in December. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I'm still waiting for results. If I'm negotiating with another sound study, I don't know if they can turn it around that fast. But the whole thing is doing our due diligence and staying patient and making sure that we have enough data to make a good report. So the other one is there's been a lot of comments and a lot of emails I've received, both pro and con, and this kind of thing can divide a community, and I don't want to talk like I'm a board member, but it's very concerning. I'm a tennis player. I played for years, but I'm not biased to tennis. I mean, I'm biased to what's best for our community. So, therefore, I just really recommend that we take a breath and let us deal with this in a great manner, that we're going to all chip in and figure out the best results. And I know that's the board's goal too. So, with that, that is the end of my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple questions. Actually, I would like to add just a couple items. One was I want to thank all the residents who came. The comments The concerns were greatly appreciated. One of the things that was great was after the meeting, just being able to talk with the residents, and one of the residents said there had been pickleball being played on the tennis courts when it wasn't supposed to be. And, you know, I know some people don't think it's going to matter, but I did instruct Mr. Mendoza to put up no pickleball signs, so it's explicitly said. That's no change in our policy. The policy has been that there's only to be tennis played on the tennis courts, but an explicit sign that says no pickleball, I think, will help with that message, and so I'm hopeful that would be the case. One of the other items, you know, it's parks and facilities. It's not just pickleball that's on our agenda, and so one of the items that, you know, I would recommend to the board is that we maintain the promises we already made about improvements to the parks ahead of the pickleball financing and things of that nature. So if we are going to be building a canopy as we had said we would, then that should be a priority ahead of pickleball. Just essentially understanding that our priorities should be the things we've already promised as far as the improvements to be made at Rossmoor Park or to Rush Park. I think that was mainly what was important to me to make sure was pointed out, and I welcome any questions.
I had a couple questions of Joe. There were, as you pointed out, a number of emails, some very lengthy ones that people took a lot of time to put together. You included Carol Churchill's email here. There was one from Michelle Fields and one from Sue Kaplan, from other people. Do those make it into the record of our meeting tonight in some way?
No, Ms. Churchill asked me formally to put it in the record, and that's why I have.
Oh, he gets to send people to jail. Is there anything I can get started? Do they get to send people to jail?
It could be worse.
Natalie?
I would
It's probably
like to
somebody on
request
Zoom.
that you do that
So,
without objection.
Who's there?
I think it's already been our policy to include
Yeah.
all of them, and I don't know why, because,
I'm sorry, you want it in the minutes, is that what you're asking
well,
for?
As an appendix to the minutes, or?
Well, I would suggest
please.
that if,
Nathan, there's a lot of feedback online. I don't know if our tech team can mute some of there's a lot of conversation going on, at least that I can hear from other online participants. So
We heard it as well. I think they've addressed it.
Okay, thank you.
Taking care of it. Yeah, I don't know what the best way is, but I know we've done that in the past, and I just wanted to make sure, because people took a lot of time and effort to put together these emails and presentations. So that was the first thing. They mentioned, one or two of them mentioned that at College Park East, where earlier they had opened up a pickleball courts, that they've now closed them due to community input. And that may have been what you were referring to with Long Beach.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay.
They knee-jerk reacted and opened up a pickleball court and shared it with a tennis court. I mean, they actually had the two lines and at different times, and then there was and it was, I went out there and looked at it. It's like one of the end of the court's maybe 10 yards, not even that, from the fence and homes, and the other end of it might be 20. I mean, it's that close to the homes in the back of the, and so there's no parking. It's a residential street, and so there were some conflicts, and so they've closed it.
Okay. So what is the city of Seal Beach doing, or what did they do in terms of
the city of Seal Beach? I don't know the name of the park. It's over there by the end of the Marina Park. Thank you. They had 2 tennis courts. They made one into 4 pickleball courts and left one as a tennis court, and they share it. It's kind of like a hybrid of what we're looking at.
So is Seal Beach now taking a step back and doing studies, or what are they doing?
No, it's working out real well for them.
Well, not there, it isn't, but...
Yeah, at Marina it is.
At Marina it is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but not at the other park?
I don't know about
The
another.
College Park. That was
Oh,
College
that's in
Park
Long Beach.
Estates, not, oh, it was College
That's
Park
in Long
Estates,
Beach,
okay.
yes. Yes, that's in
Sorry.
Long Beach.
So that's Long Beach, yeah, that's College Park, yeah, the other side, okay. Okay, I thought it was said, I apologize. Okay, so City of Seal Beach is doing it, and you've been talking to Long Beach and Seal Beach
Right.
as well, okay. Thank you, I just needed that clarification.
Joe, are there any examples where you went out and in terms of one court being, or a small number of courts being converted or added, like one tennis court or one slab of concrete, or is these examples with multiple courts?
Like I said, every city is unique. The best comparison would be the one that Mr. Ninnekman brought up, and that's the Marina Park over in Seal Beach. It had 2 tennis courts. One of them they converted into 4 pickleball, and one's a tennis, and they're right next to each other. They play.
Okay.
The other one that you're bringing up that I've seen is the city of Cerritos, and I'm the one that added that pickleball court in 2005 when I worked for the city, and it was a slab of cement on a track at Liberty Park. If you drive down Studebaker there, well, it's a unique situation. We're landlocked, and we got to be concerned about our money. And so, Cerritos had a lot of parks. We picked Liberty because it's away from the homes, it's up against a riverbed, and it was in the middle of a track, a walking track, and a volleyball, much like Rossmoor Park, a sand volleyball court, and it didn't, have any issues. And so from there, just recently they added 2 more courts. So they have 3 slabs of pickleball courts at Liberty Park. If you drive by, you can take a look at it. People just come and drop it and play.
And then the other question, or just being fair, so I would say that if we're going to start printing out reports, we should just print them all out and have them here. It's kind of unfair to have just one person's report. I mean, there were, like you said, there was a lot of emails, certainly on this, highly discussed topic like pickleball. We should, if we want to make, the emails that are sent to us printed out, but we shouldn't, because I remember I brought one and just asked for it to be in the, on record, but, it wasn't printed out and given to all you guys. So we should probably set on this subject, how are we going to do things in the future, just so it's even and fair, because, again, a lot of people are spending a lot of time, and it's just us 5 reading them.
Right.
So if we're going to print them out, put them on, we should just do it across the board. To anyone who sends something in, we should put them on.
One thing that would be, I think, easy to do is every email that comes in by, say, Thursday at noon, you include it in the agenda packet, so that it's there for us to see and the public to see. If it comes, a lot of them don't make it there by Thursday. That's when we post the agenda. So
maybe they go
would-
into the next one or something like that.
or supplemental or something.
I just think that would be the fairer way to do it.
We usually try to post Wednesday, sometime in the afternoon. This week was a little different because President Ripps was waiting to give us his room number, and we had to wait till Friday to post that.
Right.
We can do it Wednesday by noon. A lot of these came in today in the afternoon, and so I would, if you want, I can put them in our minutes. But I figured that I looked through them all, and I'm sure you did too, and a lot of them were stated over and over, the same issues with noise and traffic and the things like that. And I figured tonight a lot of those individuals and residents would probably address the board anyway. So, but we can put them in the minutes if you would like.
There should be some sort of policy
Well,
that's clear
again,
and fair.
It's one thing to cite, this director's report, board meeting from La Cañada, okay, that's fine, but but when you're packaging it with opinions, you should have everyone's opinion be on record. So that's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Director Searles, I would, your comment about what we promised on the CIP I just want to kind of just say a few thoughts about, so we have the CIP list, capital improvement list. I know that the Rossmoor parking lot was on there for years. We finally got a grant, didn't we?
Rush and Rossmoor,
yes. So, again, none of them are really promised. We have them on a list, and I don't, we don't, it's really been what we hear or what the need is based on staff or what our need is. It rarely comes, hey, we need a canopy over at such and such park, or we need this at this park. So I don't, and we've had things on our list, on our CIP list for years that the board just decides not to do. So to say that, oh, we promised something for a certain park, so we don't do something else, I don't know. We got to be careful about that. I just want to bring it up that we've had things on the list for Rush that have been on Rush for years. I'm sure we have a list for Rossmoor Park that, we decide with our budget if we can do it or not. So I don't know how we can say we promised a canopy at Rossmoor Park, because a resident wants it there. I would like to hear more voices, hey, we need this over at Rush Park. I haven't heard anybody complain about Rossmoor Park, I'm sorry, with items that are needed there, like a canopy, like whatever other items are needed. So I'm just bringing it up. It's just,
okay.
I don't think any of our CIP list is promised to the community. We just decide based on funding. And I can tell you with the parking lot here at Rush, we did not want to spend all that. We had the money. We didn't want to spend all that money we kind of put a couple Band-Aids on it several years. And then Mr. Mendoza found us some funding, and we went ahead and redid it. So I'm glad we waited. So that's all. It's not, it was just a comment.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, I think respectfully then, my point was as a committee that it would come to the board and we would present that there had already been some statements made. I would also kind of disagree with your approach, because I would think then if I'm the canopy person and I didn't know that my project that had been previously presented to the board is now being sidelined for something else, I want to know in advance so that I can come to the parks and facilities and say, I still want my darn canopy. And so if we're at a position where one part of this board has said during a board meeting we're going to go forward with the project, or this is on our agenda, then we don't get rid of it without a full discussion again. It doesn't get forgotten and hence replaced. I guess it's the way I would put it. So I understand what you're saying. There's no promises necessarily, but it has to be fully discussed again before it's forgotten. And so I
don't think anything goes off the list. It's
well,
just,
I can say from the emails we receive that there are folks who believe that the priorities of Rossmoor Park aren't being addressed the same as what they are at Rush Park. And we need to discuss it fully as a board before we make those changes. That's all I would present, and that is as a committee recommending to the board. And so that's kind of where I was saying, as the parks and facilities, that is, my position was we were discussing more than pickleball, and one of the items brought up by one of the residents was there are other improvements to Rossmoor Park that seem to be forgotten right now as you look at spending money on pickleball. And I want the board to seriously remember that they said they were going to make these improvements, and they haven't yet. So,
Mr. Mendoza, are there promised or items at Rossmoor Park that are on our CIP list?
Can everybody hear me? The picnic canopy, you guys did give me the board did give me direction to move forward that. I'll be real open here and I'll be real honest. I've drug my feet on that because one, the state is so backed up. They're extending the 2024 deadline. that we have to have projects done by. So this picnic canopy is on our list, along with carpeting and some infrastructure things here. They're extending the deadline to complete those projects to 2028 because they can't keep up with the flow of paper and the administrative part of it. And I'll be real open here, I can't either. I'm trying to get some of these projects, I will, but things like pickleball come up, critical thinking, other issues that just take up a lot of my time, that those things I just put off to the side. And I know I'm going to get to it. And I know I have time when they start telling you you have time to do that. So just FYI, yeah, it's there. And on another note, administratively, I'm the general manager, I take a look at the budget, and I think Director Cyril's will acknowledge us that in our discussion with our accountant, we aren't wealthy. We have to really be diligent about how we spend our money because we have an ebb and flow. We might have $1 million something in the bank, but as you know, certain times of the year we dip down to 400,000 or 500,000 because we don't get those increments from the county, but maybe twice a year. So our bank account goes from 1.2 to maybe 400,000 or 500,000 certain parts of the year. And if you're at that low and something happens infrastructurally and you have to fix it, you're in a world of hurt. So I purposely am waiting for either more grants to come in to take on some of these other projects, or slow my roll here and make sure that if we decide, and that's a board decision, to move ahead with pickleball, that we have enough money in this grant to maybe do both, maybe cut back on the type of picnic shelter we have, and maybe do both of those amenities. But it's a money issue, and at that point, I would come back to the board and give you options.
Under your leadership, Mr. Mendoza, have you been neglecting Rossmoor Park?
No,
Okay.
I can give you a list of,
All right.
I'd be happy to provide you with a list of what we've done there and done here.
And again, I bring this up because there was an article on Enterprise, the newspaper, that laid out how we were neglecting Rossmoor Park, and I don't see us, this board, or Mr. Mendoza, neglecting Rossmoor Park.
I'd like to see a point-by-point response by the general manager, the district to those points if you think they are inaccurate. Are we neglecting Rossmoor Park is kind of a softball, well, not to bring up a different sport, but.
Well, I would just say, and I'll be happy to give you that list, we've been equally responsive to both parks. We don't love one park more than the other. And I think this is a pickleball deflection, yeah. And I think it pretty much cut to the core of how this community is going to be divided over a pickleball issue.
No, I think there were some questions of, I think, deferred maintenance, which I'm perfectly willing to believe, is accurate or is not accurate. I don't have the facts, so I can't say either way. Anyway, were there other comments on before we get to the public?
No.
You want me to?
I wanted to just touch base on the email situation before we make I know it was just a conversation, and then there was this sort of a blanket statement that we should include all emails. I hesitate to say that we would include all emails because although the ones that were submitted were very thoughtful and respectful and had a lot of good content, we can't guarantee the civility of all emails, and I don't think that emails that are speaking badly about individuals, which again, none of these were, but should be included in our agenda packets. So I think there needs to be some sort of oversight with that, and to have a blanket statement that all emails are going to be included is not necessarily the best interest of the district.
Can I make a recommendation that Mr. Priozzi look at other districts or other communities and what they do for a policy?
Yeah, I can tell you my own 2 cents. I agree with you, Nathan. This is something we should look at a little. But in my own experience, being a lawyer before a number of local agencies, when when there is a public matter up before the city council or the planning commission, they always include all communications to the city up to the date that the thing is published. Up, you know, they have to have a cutoff date. But that is pretty standard procedure in my experience with other cities. And of course, Tarquin can add to that, but I don't think, I think that's a pretty, these are all public records. By writing your emails to the district, they become part of the public record. They become subject to public disclosure, and I think, you know, they ought to be readily available. That's my 2 cents, or 1 cent. I don't know.
Thank you. Would you like me to respond, directors?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the vast majority of cities and districts that I and my firm represent, typically there's a cutoff point set in the agenda by which emails must be received. Emails that are received by the cutoff point are typically, but not always, included with that agenda item. If not, they're communicated to the board as general, or the governing body as general correspondence. And some jurisdictions, even late emails, will be distributed to the governing body as well. But the general practice is that emails, other communications prior to the cutoff date are always given to the elected officials, and then it varies by what happens to emails that are after the cutoff date and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Tarquin about this? Okay. I think we should open it up to public comment. Mark, if you're willing to take this on again, please. And again, as Director Nidickman said earlier, if we keep this respectful and also keep this within a 3-minute time period, that way we can have everybody who wants to speak have that opportunity to speak.
Thank you. The first speaker is Sue Kaplan. Who? Oh, I guess I don't have a problem with that if nobody else has a problem with that. Okay, Ralph? We'll put you at the bottom.
Thank you, Director Nidickman. I appreciate the analysis that Joe did on park use in Rossmoor. I'm not disputing his analysis. I have a little different approach to it. It's a heavily used park. I think Rush is heavily used in an absolute sense, but not in a comparative sense. I did an analysis that looked at how many people come to Rossmoor Park to use athletic facilities and for how many hours they're there. And the bottom line is, in a year, it's roughly 56,000 hours of people hours. Spring LAGSL, they have 10 players per team, probably, I estimate 20 parents or grandparents for those 10 players per team. They have 30 games per week. They play for an hour and a half per game. They have a 9-week schedule. That's 24,000 people hours. And fall, I'll just go over the raw numbers, 5,900 people hours. Tennis, 14,600 people hours. Basketball, 11,680 people hours. That's a total of 56,000 people hours. There's no practices included in that. So there are no athletic activities in Rush Park that are comparable. I know you have festivals and a farmer's market, but those are qualitatively different than a competitive athletic event. I'll leave this with Joe, so if you're interested, you can see how I arrived at those numbers, and you might not agree with them, but I hope you do. Second, I understand people like pickleball. I don't know if the majority of the 10,000 people in Rossmoor would say, that's the one thing I want. We haven't done that survey. Maybe they would want, before they had that, a Frisbee golf course, or maybe they want a community swimming pool. You know, there's somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 swimming pools in Rossmoor backyards. And they're not cheap. I think you could probably put a pickleball court in a backyard. So I'm not asking you to, I have a swimming pool, I like it a great deal. I wouldn't come here and say, hey, I like to swim, put a swimming pool in the park. I think most people in Rossmoor figure if they like to swim, they'll put a swimming pool in their backyard. That might be one approach. I'm not putting down the idea of pickleball in a park, but you could do it in your backyard.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Next up is Rob Kaplan.
Obviously, there have been many conversations about these topics over many meetings. To cut to the chase, something that is fun is not a pressing need if it's going to impinge on other elements of the life of people in a community. Something that causes conflict, that leads to an inherent kind of battle between sports for the same space, is not the way to bring a joyous, fun activity to a community. I appreciate that you were saying this is not suddenly about to happen. But it's very important that everyone take a step back here and really make sure this is analyzed in the right kind of way. This is not a need. This is not a need. This is not an emergency. Repairs and upgrades of facilities that have been promised, that have been talked about for years, have been analyzed and felt this is an important thing to fix, or this is an important thing to put in, without pulling away and disrupting from another activity, such as, in this case, tennis, for example. So please keep thinking about this commitment that you have to the community of Rossmoor as doing things that are important, that must be done, not just that sound like they'll be fun to do. Please keep that kind of spirit as you analyze this very important issue that is indeed going to be differentially disruptive to Rossmoor Park and to our community around it, and certainly to the activity of playing tennis at the park, if it's just put there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Maureen.
Well, I had what I was going to say written down before Joe said his little spiel. So I've been coming to the pickleball meetings. I've been coming to the RCSD meetings for years now. And I still haven't changed my opinion. I'd like to have pickleball in the community of Rossmoor, whether it be at Rossmoor Park or Rush Park. I'm confident that the Board of Directors can come up with a plan for pickleball in Rossmoor that will be satisfactory to most, and we can balance it out. I'm all for bringing the community together, not tearing it apart. The voice of all should be heard and carefully consider what is best for Rossmoor. I will consider what decision, I will accept the Board of Directors' decision, whatever it may be. And I just want to say that everybody's talking about conflict. I don't believe that it's the people for pickleball that are causing the conflict. It seems like to me that it's the people that are against it that think there's a conflict. I'm just asking for a balance and a plan that can be satisfactory for all of Rossmoor. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Fieldson?
I'll be very brief. I'm sure you're as tired of seeing me as I am of walking up here. I would just like to say I appreciate Mr. Mendoza's further research into the proposal. I was very disappointed in the one that was gotten. But I would like to say that I don't think people are fully have all the facts, the information. There's a lot that has gone into this by the community around here to provide data, to provide research, to provide information that we have gotten from other communities. This isn't just us saying, well, we think this or we think that. We've tried our best to provide data. No one has said pickleball isn't fun. No one has said it isn't enjoyable. What we've tried to point out repeatedly is that we are not a large regional park, and the fact that it is fun and it is enjoyable doesn't necessarily make it a fit for small community parks. So it's interesting. I can take the next door app for about 30 seconds before my head explodes, but from what I was seeing and the nastiness that I was seeing, I don't think it's fair to just say that the contention is coming from the people that are asking for a reasonable analysis and reasonable study for pickleball. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Carol Churchill.
Director Nidickman, can you please ask them to put the microphone close to their mouth?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of that, but I think you said put the microphone close to your mouth.
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, good evening.
Yes. You can lower that mic a little if you want.
Just bend it down. Oh, there you go.
Bend it down a little.
I'm so kind of clumsy, it may just land in my lap. First of all, I wanted to thank Mr. Mendoza. I have observed city managers for many years, and he is a remarkable general manager. What he did tonight was supplement his written report and really explained in detail how much effort that he has gone to contact other cities, staff members, and to investigate beyond the initial noise summary that he had proposed. Now, what that does for the community is it constitutes transparency. I told you I would drop it. It constitutes transparency, and it gives the community confidence about the decisions that he is going to bring to the board to make. So I think that lowers my level of anxiety, knowing that he has added to what his staff report was. I also want to thank him for installing the lights on the north side of the building. I told him that I thought that was something that would provide security, and within a day or so, those lights were put up. I think it's a great addition to the community center. The only question, well, I want to focus on one point in the staff report, and that is whether the noise study that is being proposed on Monday is really going to be relevant. And the reason I bring that up is there's no site plan. And I don't know if the board is committed to building one pickleball court for 4 people, or they're looking at 4 pickleball courts for 16. And I don't know how you can do a noise study until you determine the size and intensity of the use of the court. If somebody comes to measure 4 people playing pickleball, but in fact, your plan is to create 4 different courts, that initial study is not going to be relevant to your conclusion. So it seems to me it's premature to do this sound study on Monday until you actually come up with a site plan that describes the extent to which you would like to have pickleball in the community. So that's my comment, and I'll leave that, and hopefully the microphone here alone, and it won't fall down when I leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Tanya Kaminsky.
Hi, good evening. I actually came here to advocate to keep the tennis lessons and keep the coaches, because I think that our kids really do benefit from having those coaches here in the park, especially that El Dorado tennis courts are overwhelmed, and because our kids then later on grow here and go to Los Alamitos High School, and then they're part of the Los Alamitos High School tennis team, and sports are good. They keep kids from drugs, and they keep them very goal-oriented, and this sport is really great. I do want to say that because pickleball is picking up everywhere and now is introduced in city colleges, and it's probably the future of the sport, and nothing much will probably prevent communities from stopping it. Maybe there is another approach that is possible. Maybe we can kind of like do a research on whether it's possible to surround the walls with some kind of noise protection. Maybe we can address, maybe there are certain types of the balls or the paddles that creates less noise than others. But I do understand the people who live around the tennis courts. On the other hand side, I do agree with Maureen that some people do want to play it. So maybe it just kind of like before we send an email to address this issue, explain to the people that we are trying to resolve it in a positive and cooperative way. And please, when you send your emails, consider that we are not trying to divide the community, but rather to bring it together. But please keep the coaches and the tennis team. I guess it's crucial for our neighborhood. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Just remind me to take the mic.
yeah, okay. I was going to say lastly, but not. Next up is Sue Kaplan.
Thank you for letting me speak. Well, after all these months, it's clear that we have put, in my opinion, the cart before the horse, and we have to step back for a reset. We have to take stock of the failed pickleball implementations in nearby neighborhood parks and pause on setting ourselves up for failure by making the same mistakes. College Estate Park was the shining star example cited at our RSD meeting as being most like Rossmoor Park, with homes in close proximity and successfully converting tennis courts to pickleball. But now we know that it's a colossal failure. They've had to padlock the whole facility, depriving the neighborhood of both tennis and basketball that were once enjoyed because of vandalism and behavior on the part, frankly, of players not getting along with each other. We have to also determine the available discretionary funds for new projects only after accounting for funding to pay for maintenance and repairs already approved. We also have to do a valid study to determine interest in implementing pickleball from Rossmoor property tax paying residents, not outside community pickleball players. And the valid study must outline the concerns explicitly, including the cost, the impact on traffic and parking and noise, as well as availability of pickleball sites already in place, with many more planned at El Dorado and Laurel Parks, for example. If the valid pickleball study demonstrates interest from tax-paying Rossmoor homeowners, then RSD must provide due diligence in obtaining an unbiased urban planning project study to evaluate potential sites in Rossmoor where pickleball would not adversely impact the neighborhood. the neighborhood. This means standard practice, 2 or 3 bids with clearly outlined scope of work, which involves much more than advice for noise mitigation. If the urban planner does not feel any site in Rossmoor is advisable, then let's take stock in that. Be glad we've not spent money on a doomed project. And hopefully the pickleball players can understand, and the tennis players, the professional rationale. If the urban planner feels that a site such as Rush Park is appropriate and Rossmoor Park is not, then we must take heed of that. Or if an appropriate site is too costly, then we must accept that result too, pause, and consider grant money or other revenue options for future construction. Pickleball is a game, after all. It's not a dire life necessity. We can take time to do it right. If the recommended site at that point causes important homeowner objections, take another valid canvass of homeowners, or perhaps put it on the ballot as a referendum at that point. I have 2 more sentences, may I?
Just wrap up, please.
Yes?
Yes, just wrap up.
Thank you.
Please.
Bottom line, this magnitude of a project should have transparency to our community at large. It's not simply parks and recreation operations. It has tremendous impact on our community, our safety, our quality of life, our property values, among others. And thank you for considering halting on the consultant Monday, as this may be putting the, as I think we should put the horse before the cart. Thank you.
Thank you. The last card I have is for Heidi Swanson.
Hi, I'll be very brief. I apologize. I was not aware that this item was so actively being discussed over the last X number of months. But it came to our attention today, a bunch of us who do play pickleball, and there literally are probably hundreds of us within the neighborhood who are actively playing pickleball, and it would be wonderful to be able to use our own facilities in the area instead of having to always go outside the area. So that's one I wanted to comment on. And it was brought to our attention earlier that the tennis courts are not being 100% utilized. They're, according to the data that was presented today, about half time, and that's assuming it's mostly singles and not doubles people, because they were counting people and not courts in use. So that would be something else to consider. If those courts aren't being 100% used, why not make them better used by our community and the residents in the community? So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address the board tonight? State your name.
Zoe Hagman. I just had a thought that what if we were to have a court at Rossmoor and a court at Rush to kind of divide up the sound issue? If you're talking about one park or the other, what if we do divide it up and have some at Russ Park and Rush Park and Rossmoor Park? That would divide it up. Just a thought.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that concludes this public forum. I was going to mention, oh, I'm sorry, didn't see you. I was going to mention, I don't know if y'all can stick around, but a number of people have talked about getting a survey to figure out the actual usage of the actual interest in pickleball, and that is an item, H2. It's the very last item on our agenda, but it's something that President Rips and I have been working with the RHA for a year now to try and get a survey out to look at park usage, things that people want the RCSD to provide or don't want the RCSD to provide, and a whole bunch of other questions. So if you want to stick around, we will be discussing that later. Thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Victor Pedrosa. Thank you, everybody that is here, Mr. Mendoza, everyone. First of all, it looks like we all like to use our parks. We're very, very happy. I play tennis, basketball, baseball, soccer, everything. And I've been very happy for almost 25 years playing tennis here. I enjoy because it was very quiet. I enjoy the environment. I think that pickleball is great. I play pickleball too. And we should just figure it out how we can put a new sport in the community, but don't take away what we have, because if not, we're gonna what? Play tennis and the basketball, or baseball and the tennis court. It was a time during the last 20 years, kids wanted to play hockey. We kicked them out. They were taking the courts, the nets. I think that we need pickleballs, but we need to do a good analysis and be sure that we have the place to put pickleball in the area. If, like Susan said, if there is the need of that, I think that 4 courts is too little. During the pandemic, a lot of sports stopped, but tennis continued. There was a big growth on tennis and kids. We sponsored them. A lot of people did money on that. Where are they going to go now after we sponsor them? Let's follow them. And all these kids with a special need, who is fighting for them after Fernando is going to leave? Nobody. We need to keep our courts. We need to keep our only basketball court and our baseball and our softball and everything. Let's figure it out. I'm sure the community is trying to do the best, and I hope we all are intelligent people and educated, and I'm sure we can find a place for that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, the public forum is now closed. Or actually, it's not the public forum, it's the public speaking item on D2. So back to you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Directors, any other additional comments or questions before we move on to item D3? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Very thorough report. I appreciate all the efforts that you've taken to guide us through this process. As you said, it's very complex, and appreciate the time and dedication you put into this. So look forward to continuing the discussions and the conversation. Item D3 is a monthly traffic safety update. Mr. Mendoza?
Director Rips, can we just take a moment for the room to clear?
Sure. I can't see what's going on, so I appreciate that.
There's a few people leaving.
Got it. Well, thank you, everybody who came and made comments tonight. I appreciate that as well, and keep the discussion going with everybody. Thank you.
We can proceed.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Mendoza, item D3, monthly traffic safety update.
Sure. President Rips, members of the board, I just want to give you a brief monthly traffic safety update. The traffic committee met and gave clear direction to myself and asked me to work with a representative from RHA, Ralph Vartabedian, to come up with a outline to present to the county engineer, traffic engineer, Wazoo, to continue discussion regarding the request to conduct an impact study of parking along Montecito Corridor and overflow parking on Wallingsford Road and Hedwig Road. As a result, I've made contact with Way a number of times and have had conversations with her. I've done an outline, and Ralph and I are supposed to be meeting for coffee to go over his points and my points put together and presented to Wazoo, who has confirmed that she will take a look at it, discuss it, and do what she can to do a traffic study and an engineer study. So that's still coming towards the board as we move forward with Wazoo, the traffic engineer. Okay, that concludes my report. At the end of my report, I did talk about one of the other issues was for us to call and contact Supervisor Doe to come out and try to have him either here at this meeting or at least make a presence in the community, because we haven't seen him for a while. We did that. He did come out on October 13th. We had a community get-together, and he gave a presentation to the community and answered any questions. At least we had some kind of flow of communication.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza. Any questions or comments from directors? Okay, we'll move on to item D4, street sweeping update. Mr. Mendoza, please.
President Ripp, members of the board, again, this will be a brief outline of what's coming towards an end, and that's the sign installation regarding our parking enforcement during street sweeping hours. To date, they have completed phase 2 that's attached to this agenda report. They're currently waiting for some more material, but they mentioned that they're going to start phase 3 and complete the project starting January 1st. So we won't see any activity during the holidays or the next month. But they're ready to go. They're gearing up. Just like all other businesses or whatever, it's a tough time for some of the larger construction companies because of the holidays and the staff and their availability. So they're going to hit it again in January. Okay, that concludes my report. Phase 3 will begin.
Okay.
And excuse me, so phase 3 for the signs?
Sign installation, yes.
Can you, you added a graphic from Public Works?
That was for phase 2, yes.
Okay, so that has to do with the signage and where they're
already up. Phase 2 is complete.
Yeah. All right, it's when I see the signs, it's a bit, driving around Rossmoor, it's, you know, we spoke about this last month. Someone brought up, you know, why are we putting all the signs up? And it's still troubling to me that we could, for 30 or 40 years, have 7 signs to explain the restriction of parking for street sweeping, and now we need, 300 or whatever. And they have, I know there was one email, one complaint at one street that literally it was even, so it was like a turn. So I'm pretty sure it's even on one side and odd on the other, okay? Which, again, in hindsight, it should have been, we probably should have mapped this out, but again, we didn't.
Like a little cul-de-sac?
Well, it wasn't even, it's just a left-hand turn. But because it's even and odd, there's a house right at the turn, there's a sign right at that house. And they're complaining that, the sign's right in the middle of their house, right next to their driveway. They open up the front door, they see this sign there. And
those are some individual situations we can take a look at, yeah.
well, again, we can take a look at, or?
Well, that would look, yeah, it's a conversation.
So what would be the procedure then if someone?
If a homeowner has an issue with where the sign is and it's, looking straight in their window, or it's an obstruction, just get a hold of me and I'll make sure I do whatever I can to make that right.
Okay.
We've done one already, yes.
What are they doing for cul-de-sacs? Can they put it on the same pole? Or they have to put it on opposite sides of, we have a couple of Bernie Place, Spur Lane, that are like 6 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And you need two separate posts for that?
Well, if there's odd and even, yeah, you need two separate posts.
On both sides
again,
of the street.
You just do it at the entrance to the cul-de-sac.
Again, had we had a little more cooperation, that we probably would have just had a map, just approved a map of the street sweeping, not odd or even, just a map, right? And it's all these cul-de-sacs are Monday and these cul-de-sacs are Tuesday, right?
I don't think we were given that up.
No, I know, we didn't even discuss it. And I understand the, kind of the pushback from the community. We were thinking that we had 7 signs before, no one told us we had to have, 400 signs to get this thing through. So I certainly I'm a little frustrated with all the signs. And then these little things with the cul-de-sac being odd and even, you got to have 2 signs now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little.
You're thinking all those meetings over months, if not years, with Public Works, they would have mentioned it? Oh, by the way.
this would resonate up, you know, oh, by the way, you know, so. it- Okay, no, go ahead. I brought up cul-de-sac. What, you got a comment on it? Unless someone has an objection, I don't mind.
Just as long as they come up to the microphone so I can
Yeah.
hear.
Jeffrey wants to
Please.
hear you.
Hi, Jeff, it's Maureen Waters.
I can,
So my neighbor, it's funny that you should bring up the cul-de-sac and the street sweeping because they have all elected me because I come to the meetings and stuff. My neighbors have, quote, elected me, excuse me, to see if we can just get ours all swept on either odd or even because we have Bellwood where we can move our cars to, and we've never had a problem with street sweeping. And I don't know how other cul-de-sacs feel, but yeah, it is kind of a pain. But I mean, I'm not going to complain because I do live on a cul-de-sac and I've trained them for the last 9 months what to do. But they would like to either have it an even day or an odd day. And sometimes a street sweeper does our street
Twice.
Yeah. So anyhow, just a thought, but I have not noticed the sign yet. I don't know if that's come up yet because I don't know how you can do it at the beginning. It's got to go on one pole, I think.
Thanks, Maureen. Agreed.
I think it's a great point, Tony, and I don't know, Mr. Mendoza, can you have a conversation with them?
Yes, yes, I can. And again,
Not
you know,
really.
knowing, I believe that Rossmoor only has 4 or 5 cul-de-sacs at the most.
No,
Oh, a lot more than that.
we have
No.
more than that.
I
Yeah.
can name 4 or 5.
There's a decent amount.
I mean,
Well, what do you consider a cul-de-sac?
Like the one the Marine lives on.
the one Maureen lives on is.
Yeah, how many cul-de-sacs, Maureen, if you had to guess, in Rossmoor?
A lot more than that. Depending on what you define, I mean, there are
Yeah, what
streets
you
that like Orlando.
Yeah, I included Orlando. Spur, Walker Lee, Tucker, Orlando, Bellwood, forgot about that one, Bernie, and then there's Edgeley, and the one next to Edgeley,
Yeah, she's looked through it.
and that might be it. How many was that? 7?
I think it was 7.
7, yeah.
So I can tell you what the problem's going to be. A sheriff is going to come in and say, well, if it's not properly noticed, I can't write a ticket. So,
Glenroy.
Mark found another one.
You missed one. Glenroy.
Anyway,
Oh, I said the one next to Everett.
Oh, okay.
No, it doesn't, if you don't know the name, it doesn't count.
I know who lives on the street.
okay.
I think, yeah.
All right.
Mr.
think we
Mendoza, you haven't been receiving the same number of complaints about street sweeping not getting done. Is that correct? I mean, I haven't seen the emails. Are you getting?
No. This week, we received one that the sweeper dumped a bunch of leaves on Martha Ann and took off. I don't know if he was overloaded and thought he was going to come back. Because it's leaf season. So if the truck gets too full, he has to take off, empty it, and come back. But we made a call. They came back and cleaned it up. But that's about, this week, that's all we received.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza, and thank you for following up with the cul-de-sac issue and see what we can do with that. We're going to move on to item E. It's our consent agenda. Consent items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time. If any board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, it shall be removed, and so that may be acted upon separately. So do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar with all 4 items?
So moved.
A second?
I wasn't at the last meeting to
Oh.
approve the minutes, so can we pull the minutes?
I couldn't hear.
I said, wah, 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 wah.
I heard a motion. Is there a second?
No,
I
no,
wasn't-
I retract.
I'm gonna pull the minutes because I wasn't there, so I'm not gonna vote for those minutes.
Okay. So the minutes will be acted upon separately. Anything else?
So I move we vote on item E2 through E4.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Jeff? Oh, no. No, it's not.
Yeah,
Is
one
there an
abstention.
abstention?
The next one.
Or no, he's not.
All right, and now the minutes.
Now we
Do you have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, so consent calendar passes 4-0 and the minutes 4-0-1. Thank you. There are no public hearings, there are no resolutions, no ordinances, no regular calendar, we have item H1, fee waiver request for the 25th annual Casino Night fundraiser hosted by the Youth Center, who we were fortunate to hear a little report from earlier. Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, President Ripp and members of the board. Tonight you heard from Marion, I have a tough time saying her last name, Garuli, and she gave you an overview of the relationship we have with the Youth Center, totally separate of what this request is all about. The Youth Center is asking us to waive fees and allow them to serve alcohol at their 25th annual Casino Night fundraiser that is being hosted by the Youth Center. They're asking to have it here at Rush Park. And basically, they're looking at Friday, May 31st from 4 to 11. The event is to, of course, to raise money for their operation and for the youth of the community, to give them scholarships and keep costs down for the day camps and the other programs they run that we, quite frankly, our residents take advantage of, and we've been very gracious to them in offering of our facilities at a low cost already. But I have to point out that we could not duplicate those services if we took them on upon ourselves. It would be very costly and staff intensive, and so in my opinion, it's a great addition to the community. So what they're asking for is for us to waive fees, allow alcohol, and of course they would get all the licenses and approvals and insurance and from the alcohol beverage and control. They would have security here, and the impact to us would be $580. That's $80 an hour for 7 hours, and a processing fee of $20. There would be a refundable deposit that we would require of $250, and we would also charge them for a staff attendant of $16 an hour for 7 hours, which would be $112. That would not be refundable. That would be one of our staff here to oversee the facility, make sure the bathrooms are being used correctly, and that, you know, everything was safe and sound as far as our amenities. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and they are asking for that approval on the fee waiver.
Joe, what was the last number? It was 580 is what the charge is, it's
Yeah.
$250 deposit.
If we rented it, it would be $580 plus a $250 deposit, which is
And then you
refundable.
just said another one for staff.
The other one that wouldn't be a refundable was $112 for a staff attendant to be here to monitor the program.
So, but the ones we are waiving, we're not waiving either of those, correct?
No, we're not waiving the $112, and we're not waiving a refundable. We're taking a deposit, but it's refundable. So there's no really need to waive that. That's just a deposit that we'll take to safeguard our facility. What we are waiving is $580 plus a $20 processing fee for our admin staff.
So other than the RHA candidate nights function, which is, I consider, a unique function, and that's every 2 years, have we waived services, waived fees for any other nonprofits in the last couple years?
Not to my knowledge, not since I've been here.
Okay. That's my recollection as well, and I know I supported the RHA fee waiver request last meeting. I don't have a hard time distinguishing the two. The RHA is for Rossmoor residents, whereas youth centers for both Rossmoor residents and non-Rossmoor residents. And it's a casino night. It's not a, you know, it requires admission, a rather expensive admission. It's not open to the entire general public of Rossmoor without paying a hefty fee. I understand they do perform valuable services, and we work together with them, and we provide them resources like they provide us resources. We have a cooperative agreement, and if this were something we were doing as a joint project, then we would have a specific provision in our rules, our policies that says, yeah, you can waive these fees because you're providing, it's a joint program. So I'm troubled about the slippery slope. If we approve this tonight, who's next? So I'm concerned.
You know, another question, Joe. So this is, so 580 is to rent this with alcohol? Or is there an alcohol fee?
Well, these are two issues.
Okay.
One is if we waive the fee.
Okay.
Two is will we allow them to serve alcohol?
Is that a fee?
No.
Okay, so we just, this
We just have a
board.
policy that requires a waiver for.
Got it. So we can say yes or no, right? Okay. All right, so there's no cost for the alcohol, it's just a waiver for that. Okay. Is this fee, is there a nonprofit fee, resident fee, and then a non-resident fee?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be larger.
This is right. This is the lower fee.
This is the lower fee. I agree with you, Director Nittleman. This is so what happens if they don't clean up and if you're going to take it out of the deposit, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no problem with their alcohol, request.
There are a lot of other groups that use the auditorium, like the First Responder Appreciation event. Do we waive the
Jeff,
fees?
if you're talking, can you talk into the microphone, please?
Actually, he was.
There are
I
a
can't
lot of
hear
other
you.
groups that use this auditorium, like the First Responder event. Did we waive the fees for that?
No.
Do we waive the fees for the Red Cross using this for a blood drive?
Yes.
Okay.
We also waive the fee. I don't know about waive the fee. I'm hosting.
Come to the mic.
I'm hosting the upcoming Los Alamitos Chamber Breakfast because I volunteered. So we're part of the chamber.
Right.
So
That's an RCSD event.
Yes.
Co-sponsored, and the Red Cross was a co-sponsored event.
And quite frankly, we could co-sponsor the safety event, the first responder event. I mean, we're part of the chamber. I didn't co-sponsor it; they paid, and we did do some, I guess, extra work setting up for them because we're part of the chamber, and we did our part.
So if I were some of these other groups and we waived the fees tonight, I would come to RCSD and ask for those fees to be waived, because now we're setting a precedent for groups that do good for the community. We're just going to waive the fees. And I just worry about that.
What do you think the cost is, administrative cost? You're going to do some support of this, right? Making sure things get done for this event, or no? Where you just you just open it up and
We just open it up.
They set up
They
and
set
break-
up, tear down, yes. And I have a staff member here to make sure that happens, and they vacuum and clean up.
and the cost to that staff member to the district is $112.
Right, but they're paying that.
Yeah, I mean, every nonprofit has some sort of a public benefit in their charter. I mean, we're charging the churches for holding meetings. They do good too.
Well, and plus this is a fundraiser, and I've been to fundraisers. I don't know if they get everything waived. It's just part of the cost of the fundraiser. So, yeah, I don't see how we can do this.
So you do have the option, depending on how the board votes tonight, to not waive the fees or waive the fees. But the second part about that is, will you allow the alcohol?
That
And
was
there won't
going to
be
be
any-
my motion, was to approve the waiver to allow them to serve alcohol, but to deny the fee waiver motion.
I would,
So
I
that's
think
my
they should be
motion.
separate motions.
Huh?
I think they
You
should
think
be
so?
separate motions.
It's all set up as one. If you want it as two separate motions, we can do that.
Maybe it's semantical, but I don't think it should have been set up as one. They're two separate issues.
Okay. Okay, then A and B. I would move to deny the fee waiver request as the motion.
Second.
It was seconded by Jeff.
what are your thoughts, President Rips?
My thoughts are that it's another complex thing. I think that we are partnering with them on a lot of other ideas, programs and services, which I think is important. But I don't think this is something that the district should waive a fee on. Personally, I'm going to make a donation to help cover that fee because I support what they do, but I don't think that the district should be waiving the fee.
Yeah, and again, on another note, this district, taxpayers in Rossmoor, keep this facility up, pay to maintain it. I mean, these very small fees to rent it just go to a small percentage of the maintenance and all of this. So it's $580. This is the entire night?
Yes.
Hopefully, they raise lots and lots of money, and it will cover the fee.
Yeah. And this says nothing to the partnership we have with the youth center or anything like that. And we're big supporters of them. But you know, if you're doing a fundraiser, you got to pay our little fee of $580, I would think.
Right.
So I would support the motion that's on the table.
Are you supporting it with a second?
Oh, we didn't have a second? No, we have a second. We have a second.
We did. I didn't hear that. Okay, sorry. Any other comments or questions? Then, all those in favor of the denial of the request for a fee waiver, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. And somebody want to make a motion on I guess the acceptance of, I don't know what the right terminology is, but allowing them to have alcohol at their event.
Yeah, I would so move to grant their request for a waiver to permit them to serve alcohol.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, going to move on to item H2, review and approval of Rossmoor Community Services District Programs and Services Satisfaction Survey 2022. Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, sir. President Rips, members of the board, it is recommended the RCSD Board of Directors review the draft of the RCSD Programs and Services Satisfaction Survey 2022 and approve the content for distribution. As you know, Director Nittickman, President Rips, RHA Representatives Mary Lass and Gary Stewart and myself met a couple of times to put this survey together. I took notes and made the adjustments that you see before you tonight. The last survey we did was a few years back in 2019, and it had some of these questions. I believe the 2019 survey had 10 questions, and this survey tonight before you has 23. It's a little more in depth. Pickleball is on there and a couple other issues regarding county. It's called out for county services, so we get a good idea of our resident satisfaction on how the county is serving us in certain areas, and that's safety and and trash, and a couple other items. So before tonight, you have the draft. I did get a feedback, and she's here. I'm glad she's here. She stayed. I can give this to you. Ms. Churchill came up tonight and gave me additional, I guess, questions that she would like us to consider. There's a lot of them. It's in depth. I would think that we maybe consider it at another survey, an addition, or an additional survey coming up. But I'm going to pass these out to you, and you can take a quick look at them and maybe discuss. I'm sorry, President Rips, I don't know how to do that for you. I will make sure they're in the minutes.
I can say, with all due respect to you, Ms. Churchill, that
Are any of the directors allowed to take pictures and send them to me?
we
Yeah.
spent
Yes.
a whole lot of time, as I said, going over the questions and the strategies, and one of the most important considerations was trying to keep it short so that people would answer it, because, you know, you get past, you know, both sides of one sheet of paper, basically, and the response rate starts going down. I think, you know, glancing quickly, there are some good questions here, and I think we ought to think about, you know, some kind of follow-up survey maybe, but as I said, we have worked for this. This is the last of my legacy. I would like to approve this survey tonight without further significant material changes. And because I'm just afraid we don't get response to what the committee agreed were the key questions that we would like people to answer. We also talked about, and I didn't see it in this item, Joe, trying to have some sort of contest or other things to increase the response rate, like have a contest for, you know, for everybody who submits an actual handwritten or typed comment on, you know, for suggestions. We had a couple of suggestion lines, have a, you know, put all their names in a hopper, except then it would not be anonymous. We talked about several things, but we did want to talk about ways to boost the response without boosting the response by the same person 300 times. And it's going to be done on SurveyMonkey in a setup that will eliminate that option. But yes, it's going to be electronic. It's going to be anonymous, but we talked about if there's a way that we can boost responses by, you know, encouraging people to vote once and only once, then that would...
How will you know if somebody actually lives
Mike, the mic.
Yeah.
Oh. One of these questions, do you live across the street from Rossmoor Park? How do you know that they actually do? As opposed to somebody that has concerns that they don't live across the street, but they're going to pretend like they do.
I mean, people, yeah, on these questions, I think, I'm not sure we need to address all of these. I mean, we just got them.
Mark, you have to come to the mic.
Sorry. I'm not sure we need to. Here's what I would do with these questions. I would send them back to the committee or the Parks and Rec Committee.
What are you asking me to do with this?
With this, as I said, I think refer to committee. The survey I'm talking about is the one that's in our agenda.
Oh.
That's the one we've been working on for the last year.
Not this.
This is
Churchill's. Got it. Sorry.
Contribution.
Got it.
Sorry. I agree with you. That's a question that would be hard to verify.
So on,
Where is this survey?
Can I just ask a question?
H2?
I understand not wanting to alter all the hard work that you've already done, and I certainly wouldn't ask you to do that. My question is, how many households will the survey reach on SurveyMonkey? I was told that Rossmoor Homeowners Association only has an email list of about 1,500 residents, and there are about 10,000 in town. So how do you know what percentage of your population is going to get your survey?
I think it's about 1,500 homes that they have, was how I understood it, correct me if I'm wrong, and there's 3,700 homes if you count the condos in Rossmoor, so it's about half. Beyond that, how you get every home, were we talking about, you ended up with SurveyMonkey. We had talked earlier about mailing it to every resident.
Yes, that is a little complicated and it's costly, so we decided to go with SurveyMonkey and the QR code and restrict it to one I guess, response per device.
So in a household with, so it's not limited to voters, it's just the number of devices in your house, right?
Well, we're asking for one per household, but yeah, we couldn't guarantee that, yes.
Yeah. And a VPN wouldn't get around that?
I don't know, there was something to research.
Yeah, I don't know that, so SurveyMonkey, I'm familiar with it. Can you do it multiple times?
No, we can have it so that after, I mean, they're telling us that we can restrict it. So once a device has voted, it can no longer vote.
Okay.
On this survey. I mean, it is more expensive to mail to 3,700.
No,
homes.
I agree. I don't think we need to spend that money to, but, so we're going to rely, again, I'm asking this question to give me input. Are we we're just relying on RHA's email list or?
And we have one also.
And you have one also?
Yes.
Okay,
and
so.
then we're going to put ads in the paper with QR codes.
Okay, and then we're going to post it.
Yep.
And all you're saying is that on SurveyMonkey, if I use my phone.
You're done.
You're done. Okay.
But then you can use your
Yeah, I
laptop
can use my, I mean, again,
and
if,
your desktop. Yeah, it's limited for device.
Device or email?
Device.
Yeah, it would be nice.
It might be both, yeah.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, you can forward, I don't know.
How much was it going to cost us to do it the old-fashioned way and mail it to every home? $2,000?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
I didn't remember that the committee decided how it was going to be.
No, what happened was, I believe I think it was Marion Last told us, that she had a resource to get us a cost, and it was Joe Shade, and I couldn't get a price out of her. So it was some kind of real estate thing that they were working with, and.
I mean, the only other approach would be to mail out a postcard to every resident with the QR code, right? Again, I don't know how you get away from here, QR code. I mean, it's, unless the QR code is numbered and you only have one. But again, what's our intent?
Yeah.
What's our intent?
Our intent is to get a substantial portion of Rossmoor, people who may not have time or ability to come to meetings to tell us what they think.
And so what we need is a sampling, just like in the past when we did calls and did the survey. I mean, we're not going to get everyone.
How much would a postcard, we're a government agency, don't we get
A discount?
A discount?
You can, again, it depends, if the mail is, if the postcard is all the same and it just gets, it's not, doesn't have an address on it, because Rossmoor is divided up into routes, so you can buy a route and it's relatively, bulk, and it's relatively inexpensive compared to a 57-cent stamp or a 35-cent postcard stamp. It's cheaper than that. But with that, you don't get that, it's not addressed, to Mark Nidickman. Okay.
It comes in with the weekly.
It comes in,
ads.
yeah. Well, yes, it depends on the day. Does it come in? I don't know about if you can do it on a Wednesday when the ads don't come out. I don't know that.
Wednesday is the day the ads.
Oh, then to Monday. Pick another
Any
day.
day but Wednesday. I don't know, Joe, that might be worth looking into, but just to try and boost. I don't know how much it's going to work.
My thoughts would be not to strive for perfection here.
Yeah, I know.
As Director DeMarco said,
agree.
what's the intent? The intent is to gather,
Just a sample.
data and what
Yeah.
people care about. And I don't, look, we have participation of 40 people tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried that those 40 people give it around their house and they get 5 results for
Yeah.
each, and
Yeah.
the data is skewed by those 200.
Okay.
I think it's more important to get it out than to say, well, how are we going to do it? One way or another is not going to be perfect, right? I think we could give it to the same person who puts the Domino's door hanger on my door and passes it around the entire neighborhood with a QR code and trust that everybody, if we're lucky,
that's kinda
everybody.
what I was thinking,
Yeah, if
is
everybody
Tony's.
takes just that moment to take a scan and gives us feedback, that's way more valuable than worrying about whether somebody's going to do it 5 times.
I
If we
understand.
take away incentives for filling out the surveys, it takes away the incentive to do some false survey reporting, I
No.
guess is my thought.
I do think, I mean, we could ask Joe to investigate whether we could do that relatively inexpensively. Just send a postcard as bulk mail to every home in Rossmoor, and just say, go online here and fill out your survey.
Yeah.
Love the RSCSD and the RHA. Put their name on there too.
Yeah, fine.
Because the whole idea was this was supposed to be a joint effort.
Let's look at that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think we could approve the
The survey looks good.
survey,
Yeah, I like
unless
the survey.
anybody had any.
No, I looked at it, it looks really good.
Okay, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So do we need I'll make a motion to approve the survey as written.
And to ask Joe to investigate sending it out.
As I mentioned in the report, it's going to go out December 1st, take the whole month, and then we will evaluate it.
Probably the worst month to get people to respond.
Which one, month, December?
December.
Yeah.
Any month is.
I mean,
At
is there a
least it
second?
won't get caught up
Who-
in the
who
election,
moved?
election camp.
Whose motion is this?
It's,
Yeah, all right, I'll second it. So
Okay.
I would, so Joe, your intention was to use an email list of ours and RHA,
RHAs,
and
the chamber,
the chamber, and pretty much,
wherever else we can.
yep, and that might just be good enough.
Yeah,
I
unfortunately,
mean-
though, we have so many residents who
I know.
don't use the technology or don't want the technology of an email address.
So you're missing out on
Yeah.
that sector.
Yeah. So, I mean, what, December's fine, we'll get it out.
Can we have maybe a booth at our Winter Festival?
we're going to do that,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
That'll add.
That add a little bit?
Yes, everything like
that's a
that.
good idea.
I'll bring it with me to every holiday party.
Yeah. You live in
Scan the
Rossmoor,
code,
No, you live in
do the
Los Angeles, no,
survey.
you're not going to.
Right.
Can somebody please just repeat the motion, because I couldn't hear it?
Just, the motion was to approve the current, or the published in our agendas, the survey, to approve the survey. That was the motion, and it was second.
Okay.
What's that, Maureen?
I was going to say, you could, for the residents that don't use technology, you could put a line, call the RCSD office, and we'll bring you a survey, or something like that. I mean, I would be willing to deliver it to residents.
Is it possible for her to come to the microphone?
Wait, Maureen's volunteering for something.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, for the people that are technically challenged, you could put a little note on there. If you need a hard copy, please call the office. And I would be willing to deliver one, and they could call me,
And you'll deliver it?
and I'll pick it up and I'll deliver it back to Joe. I have no problem doing that. Because it'll be 20 people or less.
Joe, please investigate all options for relatively efficiently and inexpensively.
Thanks, Maureen.
Getting it out to everybody, including people who don't have electronic.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay, motion.
I know the motion, I didn't hear all the conversation about getting a postcard out. Are we going to try to do that?
We're good. Joe's going to investigate that and do it if it seems prudent.
But I think the idea, President Rips, was we have all the emails from RHA, we have all of our emails, we have the chamber's emails. Maureen's add-on to that was either on the survey itself, on our website or on our social media that if you're a Rossmoor resident and you're in need of a paper survey, Maureen Waters will deliver it to you. So that's what the discussion was.
Great, okay, thank you.
And after she signs a
Have it
waiver.
available at the Winterfest,
Oh,
too.
and have the survey available at the Winterfest.
I heard that part. All right.
Okay, so.
For the recap, it sounds like we have a motion and a second and a direction for Mr. Mendoza. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. I think this is a long time coming. Thank you, Mark, and the rest of the committee for working on this. And I'm glad we were able to vote this in and move forward on this at your last meeting. So thank you. And perhaps mine. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to general manager items.
Thank you, President Rips and members of the board. There's a few items that I'd like to highlight. One is, as was brought up tonight, we added security lighting to the east side of this building. As you know, some of the e-bikers that have been coming around, that's where they've been congregating at night. And so we lit that area up to make it a little more secure and more visible to the public. On the e-bike situation, I talk to these kids all day, every day, and they're great kids. I'm going to be honest with you. We had a situation out here in the park yesterday where a kid was out there, he's homeschooled and he's riding back and forth in the grass, and one of the exercise participants kind of got on him and told him to get off the park. Young man went home, came back. O'Mara went out there to talk to him to let him know that, hey, you're going to get a ticket, or please, you don't belong riding your e-bike on here. The father came over on his e-bike. They had a great conversation. Everything went well. They understood, and it was just a good good time and a good spirit that they had. The father was very cooperative. What I found with these kids is you talk to them, they'll respect you, and they do what you say, and you have to constantly remind them, come on guys, you can't be in the park. But I've talked to our CHP, Officer Smith, and we're going to put a little program together where we're going to have a pizza time for them and some type of educational thing, and just kind of break down some communication barriers and ask for their cooperation. Maybe look for a volunteer situation. We get them to help us with a toy drive or whatever, something that they feel like they're part of this community. They're not, the Hells Angels riding up and down the streets, and that they're doing a positive part of the end of that. So I'm working with Officer Smith on that, and I'll report back to you. Okay. The other one is Rekeen at Rush Park. This facility, and we're going to move to every facility as we move on, but this facility, the locks are old. We're having trouble turning the key sometime, and so we're redoing the whole key system here at Rush Park. And a lot of keys are out. We do give keys out for users, and sometimes we don't get them back, so we're making sure we're tightening up that security also.
You ever thought of putting electronic locks on?
Yeah,
I know they're a little more expensive, but then you
Right.
can swap them out and change the code as needed.
Yep.
Right, yeah. Personnel and contract committee meeting, we met, and Directors Nidickman and Rips was held this month, and we're going to be recommending to award upcoming next year's contracts to West Coast Arborist and Bo Berglund, our tennis instructor, and that'll be coming before you in a few months. As you know, we're jumping ahead. We're probably 6 months in advance, so we'll make sure we're on time. And I'm also, in December, I'm going out to bid for our auditing services, and that'll be coming to you.
For what, I'm sorry?
Auditing services, okay? That'll be coming back to you also. Administrative assistant interviews, unfortunately, as you know, I came down with COVID, and I was out for 10 days, and I had to postpone 4 interviews, and we're setting them up for next Wednesday. So that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Were you still doing duties for RCSD?
I was sitting at home, yeah.
Yeah,
Kind
no,
of
I know
plugging
you
away.
were. You talked to me twice. How
Okay,
you feeling,
before you
Joe?
go into board member items, are there other questions to Mr. Mendoza about his report? Tony?
I'm going to say it anyways. Just don't forget about Rossmoor Park, about the locks, okay? Don't just do rushes, okay? Sorry, I had to say it.
Fair point. All right, board member items. Director Barkey, we'll start over with you.
No comments tonight.
All right. Director Nidickman? No, you're last. DeMarco?
Yes, okay. I'll start with what's going to be perceived negative, but let's get rid of that. I just believe that, you know, if someone, so I belong to several boards, this is one, and I don't like people taking pop shots at the boards that I belong to. So I just want to make a statement that I did not, certainly Mr. Vardabedian can write whatever he wants, publish it in whatever newspaper, but when he takes pop shots at this board, I get offended. And Mr. Mendoza gave us a report how he is working with Ralph Vardabedian on the traffic. He was at our traffic meeting. He's on our traffic committee. And we worked with Ralph Vardabedian, and he was the one that suggested for Montecito that we should get a parking study or a traffic study. Great idea. He's done several in Rossmoor, okay? So I have nothing against Ralph Vardabedian. I just don't understand why he has something against the direction of this board, and he takes pop shots in the newspaper. And this was a letter sent to our president and Director Searles, and all the other stuff, it's his opinion, and, you know, we're not doing enough here and here. That's fine. You know, you can say whatever you want. But at the end, when he talks about we're wasting money on costly radar-controlled speed signs, he's in our traffic committee. He knows the long discussions that we had about these radar signs. He brought up that maybe we should do them on Ruthie Lane and Martha Ann, and the traffic, the county traffic people told him and us, no, we do not put them on residential streets because they blink and they're an eyesore to neighbors. And he knows it didn't cost us anything, yet he says that we're wasting money. So, sorry, I'm just pushing back on some misstatements that were published in our paper that was thrown on my, you know, that we all get at our sidewalk, and it's just, I'm just reacting to his statements. So, all right, enough said. Let's see. I think, you know, I just wrote this down. We should probably do a survey every year. We should probably start gathering new questions, and maybe we make this now a yearly occurrence where we have at our RCSD booth, we have this survey. We send it out in a mechanism that gets the most results. Hopefully it doesn't cost that much, but just with the suggested, you know, questions that we have a committee, it goes to a committee, and we start assembling questions on this survey that we put out every December.
That's a good idea.
You know, I don't know, maybe we should start doing that. I want to remind everyone about our Winter Festival. Speaking of the Winter Festival, December 10th, compost giveaway. I know a lot of residents, friends of mine, love the compost, one in particular. He's down there every time getting his 2 bags, so compost giveaway. As Mark had talked about earlier, our farmer's market, I think it's a huge asset to have a farmer's market. I've had, I've been to farmers markets all over the place, and to have one in your community, we should all utilize it, and so we can keep it here. I think it's a good asset. And I want to pay tribute to all the veterans. It's going to be Veterans Day Friday, or my flag tie. And so I want to say thank you to all the veterans that in this country, and especially that live in Rossmoor, and all the active military. And lastly, Director Nittipin, thank you for all your invested time on this board, your input. Like Director Barkey said, you're very compassionate, but very pointed and always on your debates, and very respectful. I thank you for that. Good luck, and don't be a stranger. I'd want to see you around still, and come and maybe comment on how the board continues to improve Rossmoor. So that's it. Thank you, Director Nittipin.
So for my public comments, I would ask the community, pickleball, tennis, it's frustrating to hear residents, neighbors accuse each other of behavior that we just don't see from our neighbors. It's very accusatory. I was frustrated at the committee meeting to have Ms. Hendershot portray Rossmoor as a community that was similar to every other community, that it was just a lot of hearsay, and it was fear-driven, and I thought it really spoke to how, different Rossmoor is. It is a small community. It is about 6 miles in circumference as you run around here. And so if you decide to be difficult to your neighbor is around you all the time here. It's not Santa Monica, it's not Pasadena. You don't get to hide anywhere in Rossmoor. So with that, and to be to honor Mr. Molina and his, retiring, is to keep that civility, keep the tennis program going. Great. It is wonderful we have a great tennis program, but to treat one or the other as lesser is really disappointing. Speaking of disappointing, I know I spoke with Mr. Mendoza that some grant requests we had were not approved, and I was disappointed that Supervisor Doe, while he was here, didn't really spend much time discussing the grant requests or the programming that we've had in Rossmoor the last couple of years, and trying to get some help with that. So I'm hopeful we can continue to work to maybe get that done. I am thankful to Supervisor Foley, who did have a gas card relief program that was eligible to Rossmoor and other communities that she no longer can represent, after this term. And so I appreciate that. And I know Joe will just continue to work with our representatives, whoever they are. And I'm hopeful we can figure a better way out with that. As a survey, thank you for the survey. I think it's great. I like the idea of making it annual. I like then, if we're going to make it annual, that we put it in the budget, that we have, $2,000 to mail it to households, and then we won't have a discussion about whether 57 cents is too much or not.
Good idea.
If we can't spend 70, 80 cents per household to get their feedback, then we probably aren't aligning our priorities the same. So that's, I think that's a good takeaway. It's a great idea. We can improve it. That's what we do. And I like just the discussion we had with that. Mark, congratulations on, let's call it your retirement from the RCSD. I really appreciate what you do, what you will do. I know you're not going away. You're incredibly thoughtful and deliberate in your decisions, and I really appreciate that. You bring so much knowledge, personal and from the service on the RCSD and the RHA, and we'll miss your leadership and guidance. But thank you, sir.
Thank you. Director Nittipin?
Thank you. Busy day. one of the issues that I've been pushing for the last 4 years, not necessarily successfully, is I think the board and the district does a pretty good job of communicating with its residents on the issues that it feels are important. What I think the RCSD falls down on, and every governmental agency I've ever worked with falls down on, is the other way around. Communication is a two-way street, and I've made this speech a number of times, but I think it's important that we do everything possible to foster communication from our community. It's just not that large a community. And the survey is one way. We talked about a number of things, including passing out surveys at the various movie nights and the Winter Festival and the Spring Festival, at every opportunity to try to find out, from Rossmoor residents, what do you like, what do you not like? Where are we falling down? Where are we doing a good job? And that will be in somebody else's hands, but I do hope you push that, because we really need to know. We hear from the people who are most passionate about an issue, but they're not our only residents. They're important and squeaky wheel and all that, but we want, if we're making policy on issues on where to build a pickleball court or a second basketball, another basketball facility, or how to use the softball fields, I think it's important that we try to reach out and not just wait for them to come to us, but actively reach out. So that is something I've cared about over the years. I do also think, I keep bringing it up, but I think President Rip's idea of doing a long-term study of, what our parks and facilities and what they're doing now and how they could be better used for the community, I think that's a really good idea, and I hope you guys pursue that. I do want to thank everybody tonight for coming out. It was another good discussion, and as I said, there are a lot of written comments as well were very helpful. I thank everybody for the kind words and kind thoughts. Each of you on the board, and Joe, and all the staff members that have been family for the past 20 years, really. And I realized I've been, on either the RHA board or the RCSD board pretty much continuously since 2000, when Alfred and Eric, Alfred Gillette and Eric Christensen roped me into the RHA board to deal with the overpass issue. That was the first one I became involved with. But so appreciate that. I have cause every once in a while to reread George Washington's farewell address, which is a brilliant address. And they used to require it in the schools up until about 100 years ago. Everybody had to, the school kids had to memorize it. And it's still read every year by the US Senate. It's a brilliant document. But one of the things that George Washington cited, and I don't pretend to be George Washington, he's, I think, one of the greatest men in history, but was he railed against partisanship and parties, and he warned the American people, because of course he was elected unanimously, and warned the American people about the dangers of excessive partisanship, and how you root so much for your guy that he doesn't, then he does things that are bad, and you root for him anyway, and their guys do things that are good, et cetera. And he warned about the dangers of how it would lead to ultimately to despotism. And not so much worried about that, but I have seen more partisanship in the last 4 years and maybe 6 years in Rossmoor than I'd ever seen in my whole life. And this is a great community, and it's neighbors. And neighbors ought to be able to, to be neighborly without worrying about who that person voted for in a presidential election. So I have been at times very concerned about this board getting caught up in national politics, which really has nothing to do with the central jurisdiction and duties of the board. We deal with parks and trees and recreation, and not with, defense budgets and immigration and all the issues that we elect people to worry about. So this is my plea, because I have been the deciding vote on way too many issues over the past year. This is my plea that I hope the next, whoever is elected tonight to the board, and we may not know for several days, I hope they can remember that the focus of the board is on Rossmoor and the RCSD and what really matters to the community, and focus on that, and that that we are less divisive, and that we, that we set an example for for all other public agencies in the state and in the country. We have 5 very talented, smart, educated, and thoughtful people on this board. It's a great board. And I have, as I said, in 30 years of law practice, I have appeared before a lot of boards. My wife, as a lobbyist, had to regularly appear before the LA City Council. And let me tell you, that's an experience. And you've probably appeared before them. We have 5 people here who, are exemplary citizens, and I think we're all, now that I'm a private citizen, I can say y'all are doing a darn good job. So appreciate everything personally and professionally, and it's been a pleasure. Most of the time it's been a pleasure. And thank you all, and good night and sweet dreams.
Thank you, really, for all your service. I've said it to you again privately, but really appreciate everything you've done for our community, and God willing, you'll continue to do for our community. Just a few comments outside of that. Sitting here on the other side of the room has really showed me the importance of doing an in-service on using microphones at the board meetings. Because unfortunately, there's times I can hear everything really clearly, and there are times that people are not looking into the microphones and are talking into the microphones. And Joe, I think we might want to look at microphones that are, I think they're called omnidirectional microphones, because if you're not talking directly into these microphones, you can't hear. And also, even when people are giving Mark a rousing applause, you can't even hear that at all. And so I think that for the people that are looking and listening virtually, and there's still several that are on right now, I think it's important for them to be able to hear that. I think that I'm very happy that we're doing the survey. I like the concept of doing the survey more frequently. Excuse me. I also like the concept of having similar or the same questions over and over again, with maybe adding some direct questions, so that we get a continuum of longitudinal feedback that we can actually look at over time. We do have to be a little cautious about survey fatigue, which is a thing, but I think if we can start getting actual feedback of similar questions or exact same questions over several years, it's really going to give us some good information. So I'm encouraged, and thankful that we're moving forward on that. Tony, I absolutely appreciate your comments regarding the article, and it really speaks to the fact that we are across many lanes creating partnerships with our community and trying to work hard with our community, with RHA and with community members on various topics to improve the quality of life here in Rossmoor. And the decisions and things that happen, your example, from the traffic committee, it's just one that we are working hard collectively, and we will succeed collectively, and we will have our challenges collectively. But to call out the RCSD board on something that was a collective process is something that makes it difficult for us to work together on. I think that it was great that you pointed that out, so thank you for doing so. I do also just really want to thank Mr. Mendoza. I think that the incredible amount of time and effort that you're putting into not just pickleball, but just the services in Rossmoor, excuse me, and the response to our community members. You're a gift to our community, and I'm thankful that you're here and really appreciate that we've had an opportunity to work together. And I, encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing, because you're adding a lot to our community, and helping the staff also add a lot in terms of the programs and services and partnerships that you're creating. And I think that is just, that's true Rossmoor, and I really appreciate that. If tonight's my last night on the board, thank you all. It's been incredible. I've learned a lot from all of you. And if it's not the last night on the board, I look forward to learning more from all of you and working with you on that single goal of improving the quality of life here in Rossmoor, and how we can do that the best that we possibly can. So thank you all for saying, there's a word in Hebrew that says hineni, here I am, and you've all stepped up and said, here I am, I'll serve our community. And not a lot of people will do that, have done that. I mean, there were 4 people that actually said they would for this year's election, so I think that's really a good sign for our community. But you all are here and doing it, and I think that's very commendable. And so I absolutely appreciate it, and appreciate all the hard work that all of you are doing on behalf of our community. So that is it for me. Tarquin, it's now time for general council items. Do you have any for tonight?
I do. Thank you, President Ritz. I'd just like to thank the board, and especially thank Director Nidickman for his years of service to the community. He's an excellent director. He's a very good attorney, and I've certainly enjoyed working with him, and I've learned quite a bit from him. So thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciated our time together.
All right, thank you. Any other items, or that's it?
No, that's it.
Okay, great. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second? All right, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. It is almost 1 o'clock here in Florida, and I'm tired. So have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
See you, Jeffrey.
Take care.
Who's